right. We were apparently dropping so much daggone knowledge that the system didn't know how to act. Fun times. Okay. Try to pick up where I left off for a few minutes here. Yeah, that was weird. Everything just kind of froze, and then it wouldn't let me show what I wanted to show. So that's interesting. But here we are. Nonetheless, let me try to see if I can actually frame this so it works. Alrighty, we are back in action, but I want this to fit. Let's see if it will let me do it. Bum 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 bum. Let's see. I think that might work. I think that might work. I think so. I think so. It will do. But yeah, so the main points, and again, I'll probably chop this up and do a whole video on all this stuff. But because folks have asked the question specifically about these proposed changes and what may happen, that was one of the questions that popped up earlier. So, specifically to these changes, this is the actual website that has that. So, here we have the rating changes that are proposed for both mental health as well as the sleep apnea and tinnitus and some respiratory conditions. The more important thing that I like to highlight here is just how this whole process goes and how much time it takes sometimes just to be able to get these changes to pass. So if we go over to this one, let's just look at like mental health, for example. We'll look at more information on this side and we can see the rule change last publication for spring 2025. And then I'm going to pull the same one for the respiratory conditions and we'll do spring 2025 there. And the biggest thing I want to show here is there's timelines on these things, and these things have changed. So whenever folks start jumping into this whole sleep apnea is changing or things are changing, let me see, why is it not? It's acting up a little bit. So this one right here specifically being the sleep apnea and respiratory conditions, etc. If you look at it, it actually has the time stamps time frame. And I'm going to zoom in here so you can actually see it. But this is a conversation that we've been having since 2022 when this was proposed initially. Then they proposed a commentary period, feedback came in, then suspense dates. And this little block right here, final action, is what literally a lot of these folks out here making noise like to reference. So you see, it has April 2025. We're in October. This date has changed many a times. This was literally the spring of 23, then the summer 23, then it was 24, then it was summer 24, then it was spring of 25, then it was summer of 25, and then, August came and went, and here we are. So what I want to jump over here too is this part because now there's new dates out here. So this is an expansion of that same thing. So obviously these other dates did not happen. We passed those periods, etc. Comments came in, comments went back. The biggest piece here being this is now the new final action date, right? So December 2025. Why am I showing this? Because again, same thing for mental health. You see April 2024 there on this side. I mean, April 2025, rather. And then you'll see here the same thing for the proposed agenda of December 2025. So I'm showing this more to say that there are supposed proposed changes, but when they happen, are they going to happen? That's in the air. So when folks are going to sit here and say, file your claim before August because the sleep apnea change is changing, no. August came and went, nothing changed. The new suspense date now is December 2025. As we get closer to that, um, actually, let me see. Um, Sorry, as we get closer to this time frame of December, there's going to be a lot of people talking about get your hey, what's going on, Marianne? Marianne, there's going to be a whole lot of people talking about these changes that are coming and do something, buy something, rush here, rush there, be careful, woe is me, the sky is falling. And I just want to show it to you so you see it. And this is the part that to me, I guess, is more frustrating because you have people that are going to buy into this. So again, this all started as far back as 2022. And again, I'm looking here specifically for folks that are trying to figure out what this is. These are the proposed changes for sleep apnea, tinnitus. These are the proposed changes for mental health disorders. So when you start seeing people out here saying sleep apnea is going away, fire sleep apnea now, do this, do that, and they're kind of going and make you go crazy, be careful because this has been going on since 2022. I'm not saying changes won't happen. What I am saying is that this is a process. And here is how you read this. So this all came out in 2022, February. Then there was a commentary period for feedback to come in by April of 2022. We'll zoom in a little bit. Then a final action is a suspense date. And that final action turned into the spring of 23, the fall of 23, the spring of 24, the fall of 24, the spring of 25, the fall of 25, and here we are. So you see here, April 2025, that's the final action date. That day came and went, still here. Then it was August. That day came and went, we're still here. This is in Reg Info. You'll see a little more details, and there's a new date here that you'll see. So again, same timeline, February 2022, the whole nine, and then things went, and did their process, commentary periods, all these details. But now you see here December 2025, and someone's going to see that final decision December 2025. And then for the other mental health conditions, same things. Mental health condition changes as what's going to happen, blah blah blah. December 2025. And when someone doesn't know what this means, it ends up becoming a whole fear mongering fest of everybody jumping all over the place, right? I hear that from veterans. Exactly. And that's my problem, right? Like literally, great comment. I hear that from a lot of my veterans and they rush to file claims, but then what you're doing is people are doing this sometimes. Again, one, there's no information as to like show me where it says this is changing. I'm literally showing you the actual information, not just a pretty little PowerPoint, right? Um, the history matters. We have to know why these things happen and how they happen. So the new suspense date is December 2025. Someone's going to read the word final action right here and think, oh, it's going to happen. Well, by that metric, then why is this showing April 2025? You know what I'm saying? So, like, this is the way these things happen. These things take time. There are proposed actions, but this has been going on since 2022. So, it hasn't all been talk. No, it's been going on since 2022. It's just how these changes happen. So these changes have been proposed. My problem is that when someone sits here trying to sell you something or make you do something or rush to do something, guess what happens? My DMs and my team is flooded with people who rush to do something with no idea what they were doing. They get denied and then they're trying to solve the problem. Like no one cares about this or education until you have to fix the problem that you fucked up to a good degree. And also you have just talking heads saying what they heard. I know someone at the VA who said something. Show it to me. Show me the information. Explain to me why that makes sense. So yes, these are proposed changes. We've been talking about it ad nauseum for a long time, but it's a moving target. Can it happen before December? Absolutely. Could happen tomorrow? Absolutely. But here's the point, LaKenya. If it happens, there's going to be a notification that's going to happen. And when that happens, it's not going to be like fire claim by tomorrow. Like there was there were some, for lack of better words, yahoos, because I'll say it that way, who one was a VSO who's online, who quite frankly is just, special. And he was out here with some secret memo and was telling people that by this date they had to file a claim. If not, it was going to, change. Well, that came and went like the rapture on TikTok. We're all still here, right? So my point being is that when the change does happen, there will be an email. It will come out. It will say effective this date, this change will be implemented, and there's going to be a phase in. So it's not going to be like tomorrow this happens and effective tomorrow. The email, for example, comes out tomorrow and it'll say December 1st, these changes will take place, or January 1st. So you have like a 2-3 month lead up before that, because we know people are filing claims and things are happening. So you're going to have time, is my point. Not only that, but let's say for argument's sake, okay, you have your claim in, and this change happens as this is all happening. There's language in these changes for people caught in the change, which means if you file a claim for mental health and this change happens as you're still in the air waiting, etc., technically now the system will evaluate you on both the old and the new criteria. So if you are rated, let's say, or a higher rating would be due to you with the old criteria, they'll use that. If a higher rating will be due to you based off the new criteria, they will go off of that. So people who have claims in as this happens, they'll just rate you off the most favorable one of the two. Then after a certain date, if you file that claim afterward, then you are going to be subject to the new criteria. It's not retroactive. You're grandfathered in. If you already have a rating, it's not going to change that. But let's say for argument's sake, you have a 30% for mental health, and then the change for mental health kicks in, and now you want to file a claim. Guess what? You will now be subject to the new rating criteria. You could say, I'm good at 30, leave me alone, have a good day. But if you choose to go for the increase, it'll be subject to the new rating criteria. That's it. You know what I mean? What's up, Jay? So these are the things that I think matter, because it's just, again, this is not cute, right? A video of like, these are the proposed changes that are going to come. When it comes, it's going to be like this. No one cares about that shit, right? People want to hear sleep habits going away tomorrow. Weird fucking thumbnail. All that dumb shit. And boom, people fucking click the thing. And off we go. Again, I get the game, I understand it, but my problem is what happens to, Ben Army's folks over there, for example, where he has his vets and his people rushing to file claims. They don't know what they're doing. They're just haphazardly throwing things in the system. And then what? You know what I mean? Like that's the part no one sees. So it's almost like people are having a party, but then who cleans up the mess? I'll tell you who cleans up the mess. The people who show up and educate. Again, I get it. That's fine. But it's like we're triggering people needlessly, right? So those are the biggest things. Again, there are proposed changes, but these changes are literally going to be a phased in process that takes time. And even if they do get changed, here's the other thing too: change is inevitable. Death and taxes. You have to deal with change. So again, if you have someone helping you, they should have a plan of action. So if you are with the kid, for example, and my team, I don't care about the change. Arguably, I teach my classes and mental health according to like the new criteria. So I'm gonna help you win a claim with the old criteria. I'm gonna help you win a claim with the new criteria. It don't matter. Show me the rule book. We're gonna win this game. At the end of the day, you gotta look at it this way. You can make rules all days, but when it comes to actually having to deal with, being successful in this, you have to just know fundamentally what you're doing. That's it. Um, I've been service connected for 2016, and now seeing everything. It's a lot. Yeah, well, it's also information overload, and sadly, it's a lot of just like hurry up and do a thing, and a lot of rah stuff because online that's what works, right? I can do a comparison of 3 videos. One, I'll say, hey, here's how to do a thing. This one says that. This one says that. I already know which one's going to perform better versus the others. People give two shits about education sometimes because it's just sexy to win your claims in 10 days. Promise you. I drop a video tomorrow, win your claim guaranteed in 10 days, off you go, right? But it's just information overload, so be careful. I had a veteran who reached out to me who wanted to have a conversation, and he went down the rabbit hole of chat GPT, AI, the whole 9 yard. He's seen everybody's videos on all this stuff, and his literal point to me was, I've gone down all these rabbit holes. I've done all these things. I am more confused than when I started. I have information overload. I don't know what to do with this stuff. I just need a pair of ears right now and a sounding board. So sometimes, sadly, it could be information overload, and not everything applies to everyone. So that's another issue. You got folks that'll just sell you something and you don't even need it. That's the worst part to me. We had a veteran who went off to do her own thing, went down this rabbit hole of AI. She was good to go, did some other stuff, and ended up now triggering a reduction because she just outright fucked up the process. 20 ways to Sunday. Because sadly, it's just what happens. So be careful is my whole point, right? Pick the help that works for you and that meets you where you're at. But sadly, noise is a big thing, and sadly, to your point, you're right, it becomes very overwhelming. 327 days till I retire. I would encourage you to check out my course specifically. Links in my bio. We have a lot of different things there, so you can check that out specifically for you. The ACE your BDD claim. So this has everything that you need in there to prepare for separation. It's a whole course, videos, resources, all the stuff. You can click it, and it'll kind of give you a whole breakdown of all the information that's in there as you are ready to leave service, what you have in there. So I have in there videos, a strategic conditioning planner, a statement writing template, record gathering checklist. I have a rookie mistakes to avoid. I have a sleep apnea deep dive video I do in there. I have lifetime access, so as things change, I update them. So like this is the second version of the course. Actually, the first version of the course, we completely redid it. So I like it's not just like we did a little piecemeal. We redid the entire course. So I recorded everything from scratch and recreated brand new materials. So you have access to all that, and because you have time, you can really just understand what it is. So it's not like super crazy that it's gonna confuse you. It's very specific to someone leaving active duty, what you should start doing, how to gather your things, understanding what to claim, how to claim it, what makes sense, what makes no sense, just the rationale behind it, right? And I think that matters to be able to be successful when we're having this conversation, specifically about VA claims. So that's one that I for sure um, would encourage you to look at. When you click into it there, you will see all the things that are there. So the things that I just mentioned, take a look at it. I think that will be very beneficial and very helpful for you. And then I love teaching live classes. I just taught my CMP class this evening. And then now I'm here just hanging out for a little bit, but we have an on-demand course. So sometimes you can't make it to a class, but we have active duty folks who've taken the BDD course and then they took the CMP course or came to like a live class. And that I would hold off to kind of go through that after the claim is in. You can do both. It's more like, hey, let's understand what the claims are. So think of the ACER BDD as what claims are, what am I filing, what am I doing, all of that stuff. Once that's in, then I go into the CMP side of the house of how to get ready for the CMP. What does that all mean? How to prepare for it? Again, resources, details, information, how to do all that. And again, a plethora of resources that you have. So you have access to all the things that are there. And in there, you'll have what to expect. Again, symptom breakdown, what to do if the exam goes wrong, how to push back, all these different things. So a lot of good stuff there that again, you can kind of take a look at and review at your leisure. Outside of again the live classes and things that we do. So I like options, and I think these things matter. So there's that part. Let's see, I got 50% for sleep apnea. My biggest issue was chronic fatigue, 60%. Second to PTSD. That's what's up. There you go, my man. There you go, Jay. Awesome. Yep. Let's see. I think for me, I've been okay. Got that one. Everyone's got that one. It's so much, and I got that one. We'll check it out for sure, Walter. You. Let's see. Melanie so about to retire. This check. So again, and those are the things I wanted to at least kind of touch on because I think it matters to have some context. But link in my bio, you can kind of see all the things that we have there from courses. If you want to have a conversation with my team and have an assessment call, you can feel free to do so. So dealer's choice, right? See what works for you. Reach out, have a conversation. I think it's good to explore things for sure. But I like this here for sure. Let's see. I'm doing an increase for mental health and secondary for explain that, right? If you have mental health already, what's your mental health at right now? And what are we doing the alcohol for? Are you using that as alcohol use as part of the mental health side? What are you going to do a secondary for that? a secondary for alcohol. Why? That's not going to make a difference on the mental health side. Are you using that as part of the argument for the increase, or what are you trying to do specifically? Because alcohol abuse disorder and so forth, that kind of falls into a conversation of the increase there. So one is, what is your mental health rated? That's the first thing to look at, right? And then is there a path for an increase there? And then are there other secondaries there? I'm not sure if alcohol for sure may be the way to go about this, because it's not a secondary thing per se. Sometimes that becomes part of the argument for the increase. So that depends there. But where is his mental health right now? That's the first thing I would say. I would ask. And then next week I'm actually teaching our navigating claims. So yeah, got a lot of different things that we're doing. 50 since 2016. Check. Okay, gotcha. So a few things there, right? We're looking at almost 10 years. A lot has changed. On my page, I have a you can see a video that I have for the on my like playlist rather. I have the increase like from set 50 to 70, 70 to 100. So like those things are there that are pretty helpful for sure. But I will just briefly cover on this. So to your point, you're kind of there. I think it becomes more a conversation of, if you are at a 50, and to your point, 10 years have passed and things have gotten worse, then now the conversation is more, how have the symptoms got worse? What are we arguing, right? And again, it's a deep dive, but I look at it from the perspective of, we've established that you're at the 50, but now we're going to have conversations at the 70. And it's not so much a conversation of, hey, I have these symptoms, but can you speak to these symptoms, unpacking that, being able to give context as to, in your life, right, what has happened all these past few years to argue and back up that increase. So that for sure, I think matters. And I like to um, look at this right here from the perspective of, at the 50 level, we have a difficulty. And again, this is just one example of many. I teach literally a whole class on a CMP, but as an example, if we're looking at difficulty here specifically, um, on the 50 side of the house, establishing and maintaining effective relationships. Let me see if it'll actually. Yeah, there's definitely a lag. I don't know why it's doing that. But here, there's a difficulty to establish effective relationships and so forth. And at the 70, we're looking at an inability. And I like to use these two words 'cause I think it helps to give context to the argument that we're making, right? Difficulty doing a thing at 50, the inability to do that thing at 70, right? So we're elevating the conversation and really more so having to explain, hey, look, it's not this difficult in life, and these are things that I'm experiencing, but I have an inability in life to do these things. And here are more detailed examples, right? And a lot of veterans, quite frankly, do have the symptoms potentially many a times for a higher rating. It's just they don't have the ability to articulate it, right? It's almost like a every veteran under the sun, if you ask them how they're doing, they're going to say literally textbook verbatim the 30%. And the 30% becomes simply, as you can see here, I have some anxiety. I can't sit with my back to the door. I change the locks. I have some sleep issues. I have some mood issues. I have some anxiety. I'm easily triggered. You haven't said anything. You said a lot of big words that sound, moving, but you really haven't said anything. But that's where most veterans kind of default to, right? And because they're not able to really open Pandora's box, you get a 30, right? And then you can argue, right? No, this veteran actually has difficulty establishing relationships, and here are some issues, blah, blah, blah. Well, guess what? Let's unpack that some more. It's not that you have some difficulties. My brother in arms, my sister in arms, you are on your third divorce. You've been fired how many times? We don't have a difficulty here. You have an inability, my dear, to establish and maintain effective relationships. You have alienated yourself from your family. You literally have relationship issues. You can't be with people, people can't be with you. You can't work with people, people can't work for you. Like, it's a rat. It's a whole rabbit hole of Pandora's box stuff, right? And obviously, I'm being very facetious and making light of the situation. But if you think about it, right, this is the reality of many veterans. But if you don't open Pandora's box and actually get detailed, you are literally going to have instances where, what the hell? Let me see here. Where you're not going to be, hmm? Where you're not going to be able to be properly seen, right? So I think those things matter to be able to actually be more detailed about that. So for sure, I think that we have to have a conversation, to look at, hey, here are the things that I'm dealing with. Here is the actual nitty gritty of it, right? So again, that matters. But to your point, you had an attempt this year. You tried. I have had an attempt this year. Again, these things matter for context, right? It's not a situation of a key word gets you something. It's a holistic conversation of understanding, right? What are we arguing? Why are we arguing that thing? And I think that matters. I would highly recommend, if you're able to pop into one of the classes that I teach, I think that matters, whether it's a live class or the on demand class. That matters. And again, like think about it, right? When someone says, "Hey, do you have a tip for me?" I have a lot. Think about this for example, right? I'm having to explain and give you perspective on in a class, right? And again, I can't do classes live because people pop in, they pop out. So to me, I've tried it, it doesn't work because I'll literally be stuck on slide one over and over as new people keep asking the same question. So there's that part. But let's look at what is a CMP first of all. Do you know what a CMP is? Do you know why you should attend? Do you know how you will be evaluated? Do you know what to expect? Do you know what not to expect? What type of exams are there? Right? What are some red flags for a bad exam? Conversely, how in turn do you report the exam? Right? And tips and information to be able to navigate this process. So for me, I think it's really crucial for veterans to have a understanding of this because it's easy to just say, hey, just here's two tips. Okay, that's cute. And then when it doesn't work, then what, right? I kind of make the comparison that we have veterans. It's like sports, right? If you don't know the rules of the game, how are you going to call it out, right? You need to understand here are the things expected of me. That matters. So for sure, reach out, jump in a class, for sure. And then also because let's say you things have changed, right? There's almost 10 years from your last rating where you've been at. Not only potentially is there an increase there, but are there other issues that you are dealing with? Are there secondary arguments that can be made? Has this triggered other things? There are a variety of different things that veterans have that they're dealing with that this caused that, right? That matters. Huge. So for sure. An eye for an eyes in the building. Let's see. CMP exam, the second examiner seemed like she didn't care. Check. How soon was that second exam? And again, reporting it, that becomes a thing. Um, I do one-on-ones on my LinkedIn bio. You have that there. Just gotta reach out to me, let me know. So I've opened up my schedule. I do one-on-ones myself, but sporadically. I have a team. We have free assessments. We also have like one-on-one support. So we have a variety of different services. Literally check the link, reach out. That'd be the best way to kind of go at it there and kind of see what works for you. So in this space, that's kind of weird because I like options, but the options are weird when people say they have options, but then they don't. We have options, right? Take a course, take a class, do a thing. Those things matter. So yeah, that's an example of that there. Let's see. And again, the link in my bio will give you some information there, so you can kind of take a look at you can look at what we have, what we do, a little information there. So feel free to take a look at that. If you go to the Ace Your VA Claim tab, you'll see the different services that we have there. You can reach out. You can see some of the freebies that we have online. You could look at the advocacy stuff that we have there, the things that we're doing now. We're doing a lot of political things, having conversations with politicians and educating them and kind of lobbying and all this other stuff. So that's interesting. And the team, you can see the about us, actually see the team. So I'm not very fancy. I'm just David DP, right? And you can see my team, who they are. So there's another fun fact that I have to say. If in this live somebody DMs you and they say they work for me, be careful. Sadly, I've realized that people like to do that now, and I've had veterans complain or reach out to me telling me that, hey, my people didn't get back to them. I'm like, what people? The only people I know are literally on my page, and you have to go and click About Us, and you will see who my team is and scroll down. Full names and the whole 9 yards, real people, real backgrounds. So if they're not on my website, I don't know who you're talking about. but sadly, it has happened. Okay, let's see. I have a CMP exam for mental health coming up. It's coming up next. Yeah, yeah, you could get through the course over the weekend. Yeah, so for sure, I would definitely. I just literally taught the class live tonight, but you can get the course. That's happening 24/7. You can get through it probably in about an hour, so that'll be good. An hour and change, so about a day, you'll be fine. Let's see. All I want is my PTSD claim to be accepted. I understand. I understand. Prescribe anxiety meds records. Just say mood disorders. Yeah. To Naomi's point there, that becomes just more a diagnosis piece there. So, um, are you ready for anything mental health wise? That matters too. I didn't see anything else. Let's see. What was the other one? This thing's acting up. I don't know what's going on. I provided every piece of evidence, and these people deferred everything. And again, that's we're seeing a lot of that too. That's just also sometimes games the system plays. They'll defer things. You give them everything. They'll still deny you. There's so many things that are happening, and we see a little bit of everything. So the hardest part about doing this is actually not the claim. The hardest part about doing this is keeping you in the fight, right? Whether it be Ricky or Lakenya, for example, you're doing all these things, you have support, but at some point you're gonna want to give up. And I think it goes a long way to have actual people supporting you to get through this. That's the part I don't think people realize. Like it's great that people can give you ideas and recommendations, but what do you do when you get denied? What do you do when things don't work? What do you do when the VA wants to produce you? Like people have a lot of opinions until the shit hits the fan, or until things don't work, or until what they said that they did to work for them does not work for you. And then what, right? Like this is chess. People sadly want to give you checker moves here, and I'm like, that nah, we got to play a bigger game here, sadly, because it is a complex system. Why did you get deferred? What's going on? Was that just system wise? Blah blah blah. There's so many ways that all goes. Um, I got denied for migraines. They said my migraines are due to my neck. Injury service connected. And again, so do I apply a secondary to neck? So you filed your migraines direct to service. They said no because it's actually due to your neck condition. So in that situation, there you could do a supplemental claim and argue the neck condition secondary to your service connected neck. Right. Ever since you had the neck condition that is service connected, the migraine started popping up. That makes a better argument there. So that would be the way to go. Let's see. Um, and again, and again, disclaimer, right? I'm not looking at all your stuff. This is very superficial, so I'm big on we have to also get some context too, right? So just based off of the superficial information, you filed, I understand, migraines direct to service. Did we have records in service to support the argument? The answer is no. They in turn denied you. They said that most likely is due because of your service connected neck condition. That's the pathway. That's actually the way it's going on. So, first of all, why did we file the first way that way? Did that VSO help you do it that way? Yes or no? In turn, if that didn't work, what's a remedy here, right? If they're saying don't do that, then what are they suggesting? Because again, if you can't go direct to service, you never complain about it in service, then it makes sense to have a secondary argument. In this case here, you potentially have the ability to make a secondary argument because yes, it is common knowledge that this can lead to that. It is not out of the norm. So again, they're saying no, but no why. Right, like I did a video on TDIU. Had a veteran in the class, same thing. His VSO told him, "Don't do TDIU." Why? No rationale. Just do this instead. Sometimes the information is just not informationing. So there's that. Let's see. I'm active, but my records saying mood disorders will still allow me to get CMP exam. Let me see. Got that. What happens when you're on meds for PTSD? Another for insomnia and another for depression. Um, it depends there, right? So what are we looking at? What are you filed for? What are you rated for? To Nelly's question. Neil in the chat, she's on my team as well. So there's that part, and you see her as a moderator. I'm active, dude. I'm active, but would records saying mood disorders diagnosis still allow me to get a mental health claim? My bad, confused on this still. Um, So it really depends, honestly. There's a few different things to consider, right? When you're active duty, you're taking a whole different pathway to do something, right? So you have obviously mood disorders. There are things that are happening. There's an underlying issue, right? You are going to take a very different path than someone else. Your argument is very different because of the fact that it's not like the advice that sadly people are giving you. I would encourage the thing above me, that ACE or BDD claim, because I'm also breaking down for an active duty person, what do they have to do this thing? Like you're using language that is confusing to you, but it's language from somebody who's been out for a period of time. If someone who's been out for 10, 20 years does not have a specific diagnosis and services at something, they have an argument to make. You're different. You are still in service. So arguably, you could get a diagnosis tomorrow and make said argument, right? So you have care, you have things you're dealing with, you have things that you can call out. It's just arguably now how do you start putting all that together? And beyond that, too, what makes sense for you? So to your point, yes, it's confusing, but that's why I literally put together that course for the BDD side of the house so that when you're active duty, you start to understand, first of all, what is the VA claim? How do I file it? What applies to me? What do I do? What makes sense? What not to do? Some people are here going to try to sell you sometimes, sadly, some on, oh, get a Nexus letter. It'll help your claim. You're active duty. You don't need that. You know what I'm saying? Like, again, your process is very different than somebody else's process. So, again, in this regard here, also, then when do you leave service? How long do you have are you in the BDD window? When do you ETS, right? Are you med boarding or just ETSing? Like all these things matter to be able to make sense of what makes sense, which way to go, right? And then in your service, what was your job? What were you exposed to? Is the mood disorder more leaning towards PTSD? Is that something that the argument is there for? Because that also changes the way we can go about this. So it really will vary depending on what you're dealing with. Our rep said no, he didn't want to do that way. He said better chance migraines connected to PTSD is easier. So, okay, yeah, it's easier, but if you literally have a denial that's literally saying, hey, this is caused by the neck condition that's actually service connected, Cardi B style, like, sweet Jesus. Um, Again, if that's what it actually said, right? But I think in this case here, two things can be true, right? There could be an argument for the neck aggravating causing the migraines. There could be an argument for the PTSD aggravating making worse the migraines. This is both arguments can be true. I'm not a fan of the easiest path of resistance. I'm more of the what makes sense logically because we have to also argue the fact that, hey, if they already identified that you fought this way, but they're saying the neck is a factor of it, we have to address that. We're not just going to ignore it altogether and be like, oh, no, not that. What if they come back around like, nope, we told you last time, it's the neck. Then what? As I said. So that matters. Um, let's see. If you're not, if it's a diagnosis, not sure, ask your price. And even when you're, yeah, yeah. Uh, what? Lost my train of thought here. Rep said no, got that one. Diagnosis, to Elon's point. Yep, definitely for the provider side, get seen, obviously, especially active duty, go get seen. Because sometimes when you're active duty, they're just treating you for what you're dealing with, but it doesn't become like a continuity of care type of situation. You're in service to serve, right? Not to just be on sick call all the time. So sometimes you have to kind of push to get these providers to actually do their thing. So there's that perspective. Let's see, Brittany, for your situation, I would highly recommend a conversation. Literally, reach out to my team and have an assessment call is what I would really recommend, just to even get perspective, right? Just to get another pair of eyes. I'm very superficial when it comes to this conversation because obviously I'm just answering based off what you're giving me, but we're not looking at what you have. We're not going to deeper details. I'm not, asking very personal things here. I don't like doing that in a public forum like this because one, we're talking medical conditions. Two, it's personal in nature. Three, fun fact, you don't understand the amount of restrictions and community guidelines that comes across. Like when I talk about things, I have to be careful how I say it because when I teach a class, I like to make very personal, points, right? I'll use like you statements and I'll use you as an example or put you in a situation to kind of make it make sense to you. I'm saying that to say that if I do that online, that becomes a problem because it also the system picks it up as I am either being discriminatory towards a demographic of personnel or I am infringing on the ADA and I'm making an inference to somebody's disability. Like you'd be surprised the things that can trigger community guidelines. Or sometimes you're typing something. I promise you, I'm not ignoring you. I am literally going down the list of questions. But if you type something or write something, a medication, a condition, or whatever, it'll strip it. And I keep getting notifications about, for the community, whatever, comments were stripped. I'm like, what are people saying? So again, it's social media is what it is. But I would definitely recommend an assessment call. You go to my page. You can literally on the very first one, click on there, have a call with the crew. Conversely, if you click on the About Us, I like this option because I think it's good for folks to kind of have an understanding of what they're doing and who they're talking to. So on this regard here, so no, so it's my so you're always gonna get me in a weird way. So it's my company. So let's actually put that in perspective, right? So I'm the founder of my organization. I have a whole team. I teach our classes. I do the bigger picture thing. I run the organization, and I have a staff. And I have prior raters. I have prior VSOs. So you can kind of take a look at this, right? Again, everybody has a very unique, different background, and I think it's helpful for people to kind of sometimes because of the nature of sensitive situations, they may feel comfortable talking to someone. Some of my staff, they themselves are rated for MST. Some have been, VSOs. Some were raters at the VA. So, if something speaks to you, or if you're just outright Navy, well, there's a Navy person there, right? Boop, boop, boop. But I just like the fact of that for me. So I have a crew there, but then we work very closely. So, I don't get into the specifics of the person per se. I have a team covering down when it comes to those things. I do one-on-ones and different things. But I do one-on-one calls. I do the classes, like tonight's class, I teach it. So we work together. So you have your advisor, like if you're doing that, that person, is like your point person, et cetera. And together we kind of make it all happen, right? But yeah, I don't have the bandwidth to do that. So I don't work clients, veterans myself. But I do one-on-one calls. I teach classes. I do the lives. I do all these different things. And then I run my organization as well. So there's that part for some context. But yeah, check it out. Hit the website, look around. Link in my bio will give you all of them's informations. And if you're interested on some of the things that we're doing on the advocacy side, which is some of the new things that we're doing, like again on the legal stuff, pushing legislation, trying to educate some of these policymakers on what's going on, you could read about those things too. So pretty cool things there. Let's see. Yeah, yeah. So I'll do one-on-ones as well. So you'll see that my link in my bio as well. So I'll open up my schedule and have a few of those. So I don't do them too crazy either now, because Lord knows, trying to keep up with half of the stuff here, that's a whole thing. But yeah, boom, 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 boom. He won't let me put him on rotate. Please, look, no, I am not. Lord, no, nope. But at this point, Lord, we're involved in all kinds of stuff. But these are the things I think, again, I wanted to at least touch base on and share a little bit. So there's that part. But no, and for sure, but that's the whole point too, right? Let's say you are picky. Like if we're going to have this process, right, you want to kind of know who's in your corner, right? Not just someone randomly, right? And I think part of that, like coming to a class or being part of a conversation or seeing what we're doing or getting to sit in a class, get a one-on-one, really, dip your toes. I think that really matters. Those are things that I think are, worth looking into. Um, yeah, so yeah, send Nigeli a DM and she'll help to coordinate some of that stuff there. Again, I get a bunch of DMs, so like, please DM me, yes, for sure, but saddle in and take a minute because it's going to take a while because these DMs never stop. Lord Almighty. A lot of guys that need information can't seem to see it this late. Um, let's see. Do you guys help? Yeah. So for the record, like I said, I'm honestly so I outright I just finished class. So one of the comments question was save this somewhere. A lot of guys need this information. They can't see it this late. Great information. So yes and no. When we have veterans like in the Philippines for crying out loud. It's like 1 p.m. there now too. So the time thing, when you're dealing with veterans the way we do, they're kind of everywhere. So time is very subjective. There's that part. And the other part too is I just was actually, Yeah, we'll switch times up, so I'll leave it at that. Yep. Um, alrighty. So I think that's most of the questions there. I got my point across that I wanted to kind of cover on. Um, but yeah, I wanted to touch on these proposed changes. They're not changing overnight, so that's definitely a process. I like to pop in sometimes, and yeah, arguably, uh, it'd be great to pop in more often. But yeah, you know, put the notifications on. That's what I would say. And I like to pop in different times too, so I don't do I'm on live on TikTok. Like right now, I'm literally here on TikTok. I'm literally on Instagram. I'm on YouTube. So even the question of, hey, can this be saved somewhere? Yeah, it's on YouTube, literally, because I'm streaming it live and it goes on YouTube. You will see it on YouTube as well. So can't be everywhere all the time, obviously. And then a lot of my time too, I'm behind the scenes with our veterans that we're working there and things like that. So, but obviously, got to start scheduling to pop in, do these lives, do these things. Because again, sometimes these social medias they will trigger me. So I'm not only the founder of my organization, I'm also a veteran who gets triggered off of just the ridiculousness that I see in this space. And there's that part. So to the point of post on YouTube, fun fact, there's a YouTube link in bio. If you literally go, you'll see this live as well there on YouTube. Um, so even sometimes things like this have to happen for people to see that. So yeah. Alrighty, let's see if there's any alibis. Start shooting them in. Any last minute questions y'all may have, but that's pretty much all I have. Proposed changes again. They're potentially on the way. It was supposed to be sometime a few years ago. Then it came back again. So there's that part. No, because we're not accessing or acting in agency, right? So when you start looking at having power of attorney and having BVMS access, that requires that accreditation side. We're not doing that. So we do not have that, nor are we seeking that, but we're pushing for that on another aspect, which is part of the Choice Act, would now open up opportunities for representation and agency when it comes to that. So that access is not something that we're partaking in because that specifically goes into a power of attorney thing and a whole nother conversation, which we're not dealing with. So strictly on the consultation side, so there are barriers to what we do. So nope. Um, let's see, but yes, 2025 potential changes that have been proposed. Now we're potentially looking at December 2025 for a final action for sleep apnea, mental health. Is it going away? No, it's not. Will these changes pass in December? Probably not. It was supposed to happen in August, and it was supposed to happen back in April. It was supposed to happen last summer and the summer before that one. Again, these are moving targets. Whenever it does happen, it does happen. Again, we adapt, we overcome. These things are always going to happen, but don't get suckered into talking heads trying to scare you to do something because they heard from a little birdie that in December sleep apnea is going away. No, it's not going away in December. This is a final action that has moved many a times. Another document. Oh, look, it's another final action for April 2025. I guess that action did an action. But people love to just quote shit they read someplace but can't show you what it actually is. Again, you can't make this stuff up even if you wanted to. But sadly, this is the reality of the space. It is a confusing process. So again, get help that helps you. Get help that meets you where you're at. Get help that tries to educate you. And if they don't do those things, then get better help. Crazy concept. That's pretty much that's what I'm all about. Thank you for the information. All you do. Appreciate you, Edward. Um, but yeah, that's pretty much what it comes down to. So again, check the link in my bio. Reach out to the crew. Check out the courses. Check out the classes. Reach out for sure. Got to make a point, like I said, to try to do more of these lives and pop in. But you know, sometimes it's like it's just getting time to actually do it, meeting our veterans where they're at, and then more importantly, actually talking to the veterans, right? Like I'm more interested in answering the questions about Edward and Lakenya and so forth, versus sitting here having a fucking dick measuring contest with the next talking head. Like I don't care for that. You know what I'm saying? Like sometimes you'd be surprised how quick people are just out their minds in this space, and it becomes a whole thing. I'm like, look, I'm here to help vets, man. Um, let's see. It will depend on like few days, about a week at max, but yeah, like a few days. Um, if that, so we're pretty responsive when it comes to that. So it's not like a thing where you're waiting forever. Hey Marley, so it's not a thing where like it's some crazy stuff. Like once we see your stuff come in, we'll have I'll have admins start reaching out and all that stuff, and we'll make contact and all these different things. So if you sign up for like an assessment call on the website, you'll literally get an email and saying, "Hey, we got you. We'll be in contact." And then you kind of get assigned to one of my staff, or whatever the case may be. They'll reach out. We'll coordinate a conversation, etc., and that will happen very quickly. So yeah, got a CMP under 14. For sure, yeah. And again, for the CMP side of the house, that ship has sailed. So I would definitely recommend the course. I think, even for just your ability to go through that and just use the resources and the things that are there. Because again, if that is enough to help you solve the problem, go in there and be successful, then good. So, mission accomplished. And if not, and you need more support, more help, then let's look at what all is going on there, right? So I think that matters. Definitely need help. We are here to help and to edumacate. Um, let's see. I just purchased your CMP exam. It's nice to have a checklist on what to focus on for sure. Yep, yep. And again, I think definitely. So specifically to the uh, CMP exam course itself, if you have an exam coming up, I love teaching live classes, but because not everybody can make it to a live class, aka I just taught one and then now I'm here. So, kind of after class, just hanging out for a little bit here. But packaging it up in a course for someone to have access to these information, to have resources, to have checklists and bonus materials and videos and things that are made specifically for this thing, that goes a long way for sure. So I'm really happy with how we were able to package this up. And then the same thing that we did with our BDD course. For those folks interested in technologies, because it's all the rave now, we even created a VA claim bot. You can actually go in there and check that out too. So we have a bot that we created. If you go there, it's literally will answer your questions. So if you want to know a little more information about what we do, what all that entails, and get some perspective, we literally created a VA claim bot there that you have access to for free. It is your it runs off of Chat GPT, but it's not so much just Chat GPT in that it's Chat GPT, but more so we built the bot very personalized to what we do. So we literally have it trained on like my language patterns and classes that I've taught, information and things that we do. So it will sound like me is my whole point, which is weird. It's kind of spooky to have the machine talk like me or give me information like me, but it's because we kind of trained it to, kind of have that. So we built the whole process, put it together, so it's very specific to veterans. It kind of really gives you all the information for like all the services that we have. Is it right for you? You can sit there and query to your heart's desire. So if you're into technology and AI, give it a shot. Check it out. It's there. Um, okay, so an eye for an eye has the course and he's ready to go. So good luck on your CMP exam. Let me know how that goes for you. So that'll be dope to look at. But yeah, some cool stuff there. Um, let's see, make sure I'm not missing any alibis, but we'll keep an eye out for you, Kenya, on your side. For those that have exams coming up, good luck for sure. Don't buy into the hype. Shit's crazy out there in the world, so just check on people. Try to keep your head on a swivel, obviously. I think it matters to be able to just have perspective and to all the things that are happening as this crazy world does all the crazy stuff that it does. So be aware. Um, let's see. I will. It's a telehealth appointment for mental health. Yeah, for sure. And the same things again. Whether because some people will ask questions like if a virtual exam will trump a in-person exam, and the reality is that you're pretty much going to be in the same side of the house. If you're gonna have a horrible exam in person, it can be equally as horrible online. But the good thing about the course is, right, and I always frame it from the perspective of uh, what exactly is it that you're walking into. So I think if you understand what is a CMP exam, what it entails, what's expected of you, what you should be prepared to encounter, how you will be evaluated, it gives you the ability to then call out, a foul, right? So to keep it simple, for an eye in La Quina, think of it from the perspective of like, how can you call foul if you don't know the rules of the game, right? And I'm not saying that like, the claims is a game in that regard, but more so saying that if we're looking at the VA claim process, it's one of those things of, hey, what is it supposed to be? Because if it's not what I'm experiencing, I have now the ability to push back. And the resources are there for you to push back and complain and report it. And how do you do all those things? Jackie's in the building. What is up? If you haven't, check out her page. We actually taught a CMP class last 2 weeks ago. Yes, we did it last 2 weeks ago. Check her page. She actually is a CMP examiner herself. So I think that's also part of what the process needs. This space needs more, not only advocacy, but having the ability to have different perspectives on different things, right? So it's not just, hey, I think I know a thing, so just listen to that, but rather, hey, collectively get perspective across the board. She's giving you perspective from her side of the house as someone who's gone down this rabbit hole, understands the CMP process, is the person you're going to see at the CMP. So when you have that perspective and then you have this perspective and you have, all around, what's happening is you're covering your bases because you can have someone that understands what's supposed to go into a VA claim packet, but they are clueless as to what the examiner is actually requiring, or they're clueless as to what their rating activity is doing at the VA level, right? So rewind. If I'm saying, for example, on my staff, I had, you know, prior VSOs, we have that covered. If I have, on my staff personnel that are prior raters themselves, we have that covered. And what it's giving us is the ability to have a full rounded conversation of not only, hey, here's what to expect, but understand why, right? This will meet the requirement not only for the rating capacity side of the house, what the VA needs, but also to communicate that information to the examiner. Because again, the examiner is the eyes and ears of the system. Because the fun fact here is you literally have a person rating you who's not a medical provider. Like that's the biggest gotcha moment here. There is a non medical person who is going to make a determination on the impact of your medical condition. So they're relying on an examiner to give them an assessment of something that they, quite frankly, are not trained or ignorant in. They're not medical specialists. They have to take the information from the examiner back to the system and do the thing they do. But conversely, you do have some examiners that are completely oblivious to the entire process, right? So disconnected parts do not help. Point being is when you have the ability to get perspective from someone like Jackie, you have the ability to get perspective from folks like myself or other folks that actually show up and educate, things like that. That helps, right? Because now we're understanding why we're doing what we're doing. That matters when we're having this conversation here. So I think it's really good about perspective, right? And if we can have more conversations and start supporting people behind the scenes who are doing the work, I think that matters because the need is there. That's just the facts. So for sure, check her out. She went through the course herself as well. Gave us some feedback, so we're going to be updating. We've updated some things, and we're going to update some more modules on the course. So there's no ego here when it comes to getting better and providing a better service for our veterans. I think that's really the sign of a thing here. We have the ability to get better. We have the ability to get perspective. And again, because of what we do, we have the ability to look at, hey, why are things happening? Again, the whole reason I came back into this whole uh, live this evening, more so because it kind of cut me off earlier, was to talk about these things here, right? But and I tonight, to your point, you're only going to have peace of mind if you understand something, right? Like think about it. If I know the art of combat, I'm comfortable in that environment, right? That's one of the things there. If I have the ability to understand what I'm doing, I'm going to be more peace of mind because I know what I'm walking into. I understand what's expected of me. It's fearful when you have no clue what the hell you're doing. That's a whole different conversation. But again, changes are coming potentially. Sleep apnea is not going away. It's not going away tomorrow. Don't buy into the hype of people telling you these things. Sadly, It's just clickbait bullshit that people put out there because they read a thing somewhere and somebody told them that this was going to happen. Guess what? Didn't happen. Let's see. Watching her live as well. Yep, she's awesome. The big bad wolf. But the night exactly. DP might as well be and examine himself. He knows his stuff. Yeah. Well, look, and Lord Almighty, I'll tell you what. Look, dealing with the system. I like being a rogue outside the system. Having peace of mind. That she does a new examiner defer from a season one. I have a new examiner. So no, looking at I wouldn't go at this from that perspective in the sense that it's ultimately they're being contracted to provide expertise, right, in an opinion. So in your case, you're going to be seen for this medical condition. That person is skilled and has been trained and has a background, obviously, in those things. They are going to give the assessment back to the VA as to what they're seeing, right? Is the range of motion limited? Is this condition there? What is the severity? So as long as you're able to articulate and understand what is required of you, the examiners are going to take that information back to the system. The only real thing you're going to get from a different perspective of examiners, to Jackie's point, is going to be more that the seasoned person like Jackie, for example, is going to be a godsend for someone who has not had this conversation, right? Lakinya's going to sit here, for example, and get this course or have a conversation or reach out, get perspective. Okay, I know what I'm supposed to do. This kind of makes sense. I'm going to advocate for myself. Got it, got it, got it. Good to go. I'm walking in there ready to rock and roll. So if the person's clueless to a thing, guess what? I know what I need to do. Conversely, if someone is completely clueless, a seasoned examiner who might be able to ascertain that, hey, look, Lakinya, I know you're completely off base, but I think what you're trying to tell me is this, right? So you're going to have a little, at times, more compassion in the process. You'll have a little bit more kind of I understand what you're trying to do. This ain't cutting it. Whereas a new examiner, you know what I'm saying, they may not have that awareness yet as they're doing their stuff. Not saying they don't know what they're doing, but rather like that additional insight into the process, right? Having have worked with veterans, knowing that this is the part where they hold back a little bit, right? So being that they're new, as long as you are able to execute and advocate for yourself and speak up to what you're doing, watch our stuff, watch Jackie's stuff, articulate what they need, they may not know to pull certain things out of you because it may be a new process dealing with veterans. But ultimately, it's a conversation about a medical condition that no longer can be treated and has become now a disability. And I think if mentally you get yourself there to the point of like people ask me all the time, right? Well, what about these meds and what about this and what about that? Stop talking healthcare. If healthcare works, we're not having a disability conversation. Arguably, the point here is that healthcare is not able to contain this situation. I have a condition that no matter what migraine medication I take, it does not stop the fact that I am dealing with debilitating migraines. So why are we talking about medication? It don't work. Next question. You know what I'm saying? So we have the ability to really understand that that's really the conversation about the impairment and the symptoms that we're having. You're communicating to another human being, how do these things affect me? Versus keywords. All right, keywords mean shit to me. Like, oh, I only have a 20% range of motion in my arm. I can't pick up my son. He's one. That's the answer, right? Something like give context to what that really means, right? I have literally the inability to do certain things because of these migraines. Guess what? I constantly have to avoid activities with my husband, with my wife. I can't do this. I can't do that. My allergic rhinitis makes it to where, guess what? Soccer is the worst thing for me because these things is not working very well in the elements, and so on and so on and so on. So I think if we have the ability to articulate truly how things impair us, then the examiner has the ability to see, okay, this makes sense. Because you're walking in there using the key words that people would think are going to make a difference, you're not saying anything. All right, don't try to out doctor the doctor. Really speak to the impairment level. That matters. So all that to say, don't lose sleep on if they're new or old. I always say, don't Google the examiner. Don't worry about that. There's a great information, a great page out there rather that this person had reached out and they were saying something to the effect of like, knowing who the Raiders are and doing this background thing on them. And it's like, let's just focus on telling our truth. Let's focus on being able to advocate versus, triggering ourselves based off some examiner that we Googled, right? You know what I mean? Because again, if it's a bad exam, we know what to do. We know how to push back. We know how to advocate. We know how to request and do things. So those things matter. Bum bum ba bum bum bum. It shouldn't matter as long as I can speak up for myself. That's it. That's it. That's the biggest thing that I would hope that you walk away with. I have incorrect info and correct info from two different providers over the same condition. That also can happen. Will the examiner do their own assessment towards my condition? How much will it play against me? So, again, when you're going now to this, you can have providers that are saying something different to the condition, but this is a conversation beyond the condition. It is established that you have migraines. Great, got it, good. Now, this examiner is going to look at what is the impairment level of said migraines, and that's really the conversation, right? So sometimes the healthcare records and things you have, opinions you have, are giving you the details that there is a medical condition underlying. But understand that a medical provider in the regular care of healthcare, they're in the business of just taking care of you, of providing healthcare. They're not in the business of seeing how impaired are you because of this condition. So the examiner in this case is kind of having a more elevated conversation beyond healthcare, but rather what is the impairment level that this veteran is dealing with. That's what you must communicate on the CMP exam. Don't get too wrapped up on you have two opinions from two yahoos that you got seen by at some time in care and things like that. Come CMP time. I am diagnosed. This is my condition. This is what I'm dealing with. And I think having that conversation really works. Think of the exam as the examiner, rather, in this regard, as the assessor for like when you're selling a house, right? Like when you literally have your house assessed and someone comes in to do that whole thing, they don't give two shits the color paint of the walls. They don't give two shits about the chandelier. They don't give a crap about the door. They don't give a crap about any of the accoutrements and things that are going to sell somebody to buy a house. All that pretty crap mean nothing to me. What is the structural integrity of the house? Do we have termites? Is the roof good? Is the foundation good? Do we have a sump pump issue? Whatever the case may be. So for the veteran in case, what exactly is happening? All that other shit you're talking about, I don't care about that. What is the foundation of this veteran's life? What is the roof looking like, right? Are we having issues here where the sump pump is leaking? Do we have flooding issues here? Is there termites in this veteran's walls, right? Like those fundamental things is what's coming across in the CMP exam. All the other crap we're talking about, medication, what doctor I saw, blah, 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 that to me is irrelevant to all the other things, right? We're focusing on impairment level. That matters. Let's see. Out of all the things I have seen this live and the my message Jackie has been the most helpful. That's it. That's really what it comes down to, right? It doesn't have to be, um, so crazy. It's just more so. Hey, do we have the ability to? Let's see. Labrad, you made it 3 watches last night. It was 2. Yeah, well, 2 there. So we're on YouTube, we're on TikTok, we're on Instagram, we're on Twitter, and actually even testing out LinkedIn. So when I do it like this, I'm usually streaming across all the platforms. So there's that part. So I'm not just talking to that one person on one platform, right? It's literally at different places all at the same time, and Facebook and a few pages there too. So there's that part. But hey, we made it, mama. But even then, again, if we are able to have a conversation with, for example, Lakinya, and she feels that she was heard, well, guess what? Mission accomplished, right? If we can meet a veteran, help them solve a problem, that's really what it's like. So I don't give really two shits for the viewer numbers, any of that crap. I'm more of the helping somebody do a thing. That matters to me. Let's see. What form should I use to report the CMP exam? One, what happened? That's the first part there. You can literally use a 4187. You can write up a regular memorandum, submit that as need there. On my CMP course, I literally have a whole section for that and kind of break down a variety of things there for that. But you're kind of past that point now, as apparently you may have had a bad CMP. So very simple: a who, what, when, where, why. A 4138 is fine. You could do it on regular paper too. Really, it's just what happened, what took place, and then calling out those things. Again, what happened? Why are you writing this exam up? Why are you reporting it? What happened in the exam? Excuse me. And then submitting it and making it known that these things took place. So that's what I would say there. But really, the integrity of the information, right? Make sure you're having that there. So, yep. Who, what, when, where, why. That matters. Dun, 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 dun. The migraine log for sure is going to be helpful, more so because it gives you the ability to show the level of impairment that you're having and how it's manifesting, right? So not only are you saying a thing, but they can see it documented. So for sure, that definitely helps to have that. Again, we're talking about the intensity and frequency specifically when we're talking about the migraine side of the house. So that matters to have that there. So it's definitely something good to do because again, you're showing now the frequency that's happening. So whether active duty or out of active duty, it's just a good form to have because it gives you the ability to really showcase that for them because they're looking at those things, right? What's the frequency? What's the intensity? So you'll get frequency based off how long you're getting them on your migraine, but then also what's happening, what are you doing? So the migraine buddy log, etc. You're also logging in what you're doing, right? Like what are the physical things that are taking place? How is it impairing to you? Prostrating in nature, you're having to do X, Y, Z, this, that, the third. Those things matter. So for sure. Y'all must be on the West Coast because it's late. I'm on the East Coast. What are you talking about? Welcome to my world. This is the insomnia area. East Coast. It's time. It's 2 in the morning. West Coast. Cute. Negative Ghost Rider. We do this. But again, that's what people don't realize. Like, I literally had our CMP class early today, administrative stuff. We're fixing something on the website. We're doing some back end things. We're updating some things. While I'm doing all that, let me go ahead and just do a quick live and knock this out. Blah blah blah. So like literally, like it's not like, oh, I do claims on the side when it's fun. Like look, I do this shit all the fucking time. So literally, and this is like literally like cool down time. So like this is where I'm like, oh, let me just hang out for a little bit, do a thing, share some things, have a conversation, and do all this stuff. So yeah, yeah. But yeah, we had class tonight, and then we had afterward. I do the class, and then with my team, hang out with them for a little bit, little after action there, and then fixing some stuff on the back end because there's always something that has to get fixed or something that has to be updated. So that was pretty cool. And then here we go. And then also because I stream like this, I have to pop in every so often. So I got a message from TikTok. They're like, "Hey, you gotta log in to keep your stream key." I'm like, "Oh crap." But I like doing like this. I like showcasing these things. The only issue is that when you do like I know that if I do a live on my phone, I get much better traction. It is a known fact if you stream like via the computer, so I'm on a computer because I want to show things and highlight things, etc. The system suppresses it, so it is a known factor. All these streamers always complain about that. It's a whole thing. That they'll suppress views when you're streaming through a stream key. The system just detects it and does a thing to it. And I've tested it. I've literally done the live on like this, then I'll go away and come back and do it live on my phone, and it'll be a completely different experience. Just because. So it is what it is. But technology, gotta love it. Dedication, indeed. Your format and presentation. Yeah. So, and that's the thing. So I'm on the computer, so that's what gives me the ability, to highlight things and bring them up and do all that. So it's not just so like I'll record video a certain way. Every other platform is fine. It's like YouTube, for example. Like they have no issues whatsoever when it comes to this stuff here. Uh, but yeah, here I can bring up things, and it's great because again I can jump into a thing, pull the regs up, and it just really helps. So there's that part. I just kind of like doing it that way. Plus the other platforms, they're fine with it, so I like doing those things that way. But technology, you gotta love it. Bum bum bum. But yeah, so we added a few different things and just hanging out here. But I think that we are good. Um, let's see, what do we have here? It's more personal. That I love knowing you repeat stuff, but it makes me. Yeah. And that's the one thing. Like I'll tell folks when it comes to the space here, you have to how to change the notifications. Check. Yeah. Like there's a way to do that thing where you could like click the bell notification when things go live. But that's really the biggest thing here. Like even go back to like the clubhouse days, right? Back in like pre-COVID time frame, you had to always reset the room. That was like a whole thing. So if anybody remembers those days, back in the clubhouse days, we would host rooms and do things, and you had to reset the room over and over in some shape, fashion, or form. Let's see, U.S. veteran watching this now have ratings for Insomnia. Man, listen, they was gonna be up regardless. Might as well make the best of it. Um, but yeah, that's the biggest thing in this space, especially these things like this, especially lives. You're always having to repeat stuff again because people pop in, they pop out, and like one person had asked me one time if I don't get annoyed of having to answer the same thing over and over, and it's like that's literally the business in this space. If you're going to like do a live or something like this, you're going to have to say the same thing many a times, and I always have to tell people like, hey, calm down, it's okay, because people feel guilty, like, oh, I'm sorry, maybe you already answered this, I don't want to answer it again. I don't care. That's why we're showing up, right? If we have to answer it a few times, we're going to answer it a few times, right? So that comes with territory. And I think that's, it has to be noted for people to know, hey, ask your questions. It's fine. Um, let's see. Dun, 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 dun. Came across your For You page supporting all. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like I said, yeah, for sure. Because I have not, check out Jackie's page. She's doing some amazing things on her side of the house, and like the biggest thing being, because she is an examiner, and that's what she does, right? So you have a very unique perspective from the person that's going to actually see you and be examining you. And of course, not everyone's going to be like her, but at least you kind of have an understanding of what right looks like, which again goes to the whole point of like, if this is the way it's supposed to be, if things don't happen that way, then I know what I must do now. And I think that really matters in this space where, veterans just don't know what they're doing and they're lost in the sauce. So having the ability to get perspective and really understand it, and also ego too, like put it to the side. Like I'm big on perspective. I'm big on folks having different points of views. Like when I teach my classes, I'll have my crew jump in, they'll give their perspective, and I don't care if someone said something one way, if that made it click for you, that's the focus, right? Ultimately, it's about you getting the information you need in the way that makes sense for you. I think that is big. Um, let's see. Dun, 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 dun. But yeah, this has been in yeah, a few years now. This is pretty crazy. Um, no, not at all. And even then, like in these questions, for again, one person can ask a question, but we're also answering other folks' question too, because there's always somebody in some shape, fashion, or form behind the scenes somewhere lurking who doesn't want to ask questions. So it's always fine when it comes to that. So questions are always okay. You're not taking up time or anything like that. Please don't feel that way. Um, for sure, but definitely reach out. And again, if for whatever reason we don't contact, connect, or whatever, good luck to you. Let me know how that goes. Keep us posted. Best case scenario, you're good. Worst case scenario, we just push back. That's all. I recently had my CMP for PTSD over on YouTube for PTSD, but uh, I feel like it was, but I didn't know what else to say since the questions was limited. So JM, in your case, um, how long was the exam? Is the first question. Was it an increase or was it an initial claim for your PTSD? Right? Because that matters if we're having an initial claim or if we're doing a increase. Right? That matters. So let me know there, because if you felt that you were limited, if you felt that you were rushed, if you felt that you could not articulate things or what have you, that matters, because then now we have an argument to push back and make it known that, hey, there's some things here that I didn't get off my chest, or some things that I think that weren't captured or what have you. Um, so those steps and recourses matter, JM. So yeah, let me know. Beep ba-dum ba-dum bum. I'm the scat man. Let's see if JM comes back with his question. How long are mental health exams usually? Again, it really depends. You can have instances, again, of what are we looking at? Um, if we are looking at a condition, again, if it's PTSD or like anxiety, um, what is the argument being made? It really depends, honestly. Some can go further than others. How many stressors? Um, you can look at anywhere potentially between, it could be a half hour, it could be an hour. If you're in it for like 5 minutes, that's a problem, obviously. But it really depends. Also, there are instances where there may be a battery of other exams. Sometimes there are veterans that have like a TBI situation, so they may schedule them for additional exams. I've seen instances where they will schedule a veteran for like the MMPI thing, and that's a whole battery of exams, and that's like a few hours. So there are instances where some veterans are subjected to some more like longer focused exams, and there are reasons for that, right? Where those things kind of happen. It was 35 minutes in an issue. Again, right? That's really cutting on the short side there. I would say it really becomes a thing of, do you have the ability to did you have the ability to articulate, again, to your stressors, not only what happened, but now the impairment level as to what you're dealing with, what's happening now, et cetera, or if you're being cut off, or if they rushed you, or if you felt that they were not giving you the time to elaborate on things, right? So, like, those red flags, I think, are big when we're dealing with those CMPs like that. So, I wouldn't say that 35 minutes is initially bad per se, for some people, if they can get to the point, or some examiners are able to really kind of get what's going on, we have hit on the high symptom issues. So, for example, if we look at this behind me here, right? So, I'm literally at the rating criteria for mental health. If you're able to walk in there and have a conversation about your symptoms, and let's say you're literally lighting up the entirety of the 170 range of things, if you can articulate and speak to that bracket of things, it's inferred that the rest are in there, right? We're not going to go down this rabbit hole of trying to figure out, so, like, what about this? What about that? So it really kind of depends on how you went about the exams. There are things a veteran has dealt with that, if this information can be conveyed over, it's like, all right, look, if you're dealing with this, got it. This makes sense, right? I see what's going on here. You can write a memorandum if you feel like they rush things, and kind of add, for record, here are the things I feel that maybe weren't expressed very well, or what have you, and submit that, online as a memorandum for record. I think those are ways to go. But outright, if you weren't feeling like they outright dismissed you or things like that, there are some red flags to look at. So I would definitely look at that there. Yeah. Let's see. What do we have here? But yeah, hopefully that makes sense for you, JM there. Dun dun dun. Okay, let's see. Jackie and Nayeli answered some questions in there. Never heard. We have that. Just did a CMP exam today, and that was used as evidence. Yeah. So yeah. So not everybody has an exposure report. So when we're starting to look at now, with Terra being something, there are some veterans that may have not been exposed to things. So not everyone has that. Think of it more so along the lines of, there are individuals that were, notably exposed to certain things. So their file will have for sure like a Terra memorandum, something to the effect of, hey, here are the exposure things that you were exposed to. Again, given job, given location, where you were at, things of that such. So that now creates the ability for the veteran to have an argument as to, hey, I was exposed to JP 8 fuel, this, that, the third, or I was exposed to this, or I was exposed to this noise exposure, like in your case there, right? So that then now gives, supporting evidence to like a tinnitus claim, hearing loss, things of that such. So again, these are things that on the back end, there are many ways to look at it, like the Gulf War registry. People have things in there too they didn't even know about sometimes. So very common. You're welcome, JM. Noise exposure was listed. Check. Yep. Let's see. There's another one. In attendance was denied for changing diet and trying to lose weight. But the question becomes, do we still have said issues, and do we still meet the requirements there? So yes, you're trying to do something to at least have some level of thing. But that's something that I think, you'd have to look at a little bit more as to, again, they outright because of that. Like, what markers do they have for that? How do we ascertain this? Did you lose the weight? Do you have still those needs for those things? Is there still an issue where you have the need for aid and attendance, right? So a few things to really kind of look at there. Motor pool, flight deck, machine gun. Mine was 18 pages long. Yeah. hmm Yeah, yeah. It's a thing. So funny enough, actually, I was actually looking earlier. I was having a conversation before I got cut off earlier, and somebody had actually asked about that. Here is actually the noise exposure memorandum because somebody had brought it up, and I knew I had it. So it'll kind of list right certain job fields, what's exposure to noise, and again, it's not so much that it's like yeah, it's good evidence. It's really again proving to the point. Hey, these are things that you have in place. Um, Again, what is it you have? Do you have this? Do you have that? So in this instance, if you have let's say like 11 Bravo, your infantry, it is known that you have a high probability of noise exposure, things like that. So it lends itself to the argument. So it could definitely, again, serve as a helpful thing, but I'm always cautious and to the fact that still you could get denied, right? Still other things could be missing. So it's not like this is there. That means I'm going to get something. No, it's pieces to the puzzle. We have to have all the pieces in place. Gotcha. I understand. Mandatory that I lose weight. Got check. 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 Um, yeah, but then again, even after that, right? What are we still dealing with? Does the argument still stand um, for the argument you were making for the aid and attendance and all that stuff there too, right? So very unique situations. Again, lifestyles, situations, all the things that are happening, they very much vary. But now that you've gone through all that, what's life looking at now? What are we dealing with? How's that looking? It matters. I'm claiming tinnitus, hypertension, neuropathy, sleep apnea, migraines, rhinitis. Most were, I assume, denied in some shape, fashion, or form. Um, Check. And again, have an understanding of how you're finding those things, right? I don't know if you are in service. I don't know if you've left service. I don't know how long you've been out of service. I don't know if these things were denied before. I don't know if these are primary things. Do we complain in service? Are some of these things secondary to something else? The tinnitus, obviously, we can argue that if you already had that exposure, that makes sense. When it comes to the other things, right? What's the service connection argument that we're making to make sure that those things connect? That for sure also becomes part of it. So check, just have an understanding, have a plan, a battle plan as to what you're filing, why you're filing, how you're filing for those things. Because literally every person, here right now could file for the exact same things, and they're going to have completely different arguments and completely different ways to go about this. Secondary to my PTSD, but the examiner connected it to my report, which I had no idea. Blew my mind. Check, got it. And again, the examiner made a point to connect that piece there, but again, what becomes now the final decision as to what the VA comes back with there too, right? So again, it's all part of the argument there. More than one thing can be true in the sense that there potentially can be for sure secondary things, and they could have been made worse. But obviously, if you had exposure to something, then that gives you, another argument that can be done. And these things can be identified in the exams, which is, excuse me, which is good, which is part of what is good about these exams and having providers and examiners that kind of know what they're doing, because it gives you the ability to kind of get that audience and obviously explore, hey, look, this actually is there, whatever the case may be. But alrighty then. The VA asked a question examiner on whether exposure were the cause. Yep. Um, Again, it varies, right? So some veterans may not be have been exposed to certain things. Some may have indeed. To Jackie's point, right? The VA asked the question, so there's a question that's being asked. So it's not just randomly they'll do a thing, but hey, I'm being tasked with something. The VA wants to know: is this secondary, or potentially is this due to his exposure? Right? These are things that are part of the process that's happening. So you can have a situation where like you have this report, all these things that you were having exposure to. You're making this claim, hey, let's make sure that we cover all the bases. Come CMP time, You're making this argument. Oh, fun fact, you also have potential other arguments. So sometimes the system lines up and they're able to, help you connect some of those dots like that. Do we know how long it takes for the so yeah, on average you'll have about 30 days or so, that can go in. They try to get it there pretty quickly. But I wouldn't hold my breath in the process because even if the examiner can get the things back to the VA in a timely fashion, the VA is still the VA and it can sit on it and things can happen there. And conversely, there are sadly instances where things do not get back to the system on time. So it really is kind of in the air. But for the most part, it's a pretty quick turn of those things getting back to the system, to the VA. But then again, that doesn't necessarily mean that overnight you're going to get a decision. Sometimes the VA just tends to take their time in other areas. So hurry up and wait is alive and well. Let's see. They will look at all avenues and ask examiners for potential avenues. Check. Right. And again, and this is the part where I really, again, want to emphasize this is the way it's supposed to happen. Right. Again, giving you good vibes, Mac. But in an ideal world, this is what you want to have. You want to have a veteran like yourself who filed a claim. The system identified that you have potential different ways to argue something. So let's explore all that and let the examiner do their little deep dive and check if it's true it is secondary or is it true that it could be due to exposure. So yes, that's the way it's supposed to happen, right? Let's explore all the avenues because two things can be true. It could definitely be the exposure. It could definitely be the PTSD as well. So again, this is the mystery of the medical thing called the body. It could be so many things that are factoring into something, um, and the arguments can be made, right? So understanding this, like ideally, this is the way the process is supposed to work, helping the veteran, navigate this, right? You're not going to be the medical expert, but you're dealing with things. The system is now trying to connect things as they should, right? So even a broken clock is right twice, right? So hopefully that works out for you for sure. Um, So the yes, and the last point I'll give it for last point I'll hit here for an eye for an eye. So even understanding exposures, let's also understand that being exposed to something is not something you will claim. So we're not claiming the exposure. That's actually not the way that goes. What the exposure does is it gives you the ability to make the argument. So in Mac's case, he is filing these conditions secondary to his PTSD. So let's just say the migraine and these other things. His argument is secondary to PTSD. A report says he was exposed to things, so he also potentially has the argument via exposure. So, in the case where you have, let's say, an exposure to uranium, you can't file for that. You can't file for um, Agent Orange. You can't file for Gulf War. What this is saying is this is an umbrella that says you have been exposed to a thing. Now, you, the veteran, has to be able to make the argument. So I was exposed to uranium. Because of that, I now have fill in the blank. I was exposed to this JP8 fuel. I now have this skin condition, right? So, like, that's the part there where folks get tripped up some, right? I was exposed to Agent Orange in Vietnam. Because of that, I have a presumption for diabetes. So that's kind of how that works. So the presumption of being exposed to something is not what you're filing, it's more so the argument you're making. Example, God forbid, if uranium is known to cause you to grow another foot, should you grow another foot, guess what? You don't have to argue that in service you did not complain about a third foot itching or potentially happening. Because you're exposed to uranium, you now have the ability to say, hey, I was exposed to this. Now I have this daggone third foot. So that's kind of how that works, right? Because again, there was no way to identify that a Vietnam veteran would have diabetes as something because of Agent Orange toxins, or that Gulf War veterans were going to have IBS and respiratory issues because of the fact of where they were and the things they were exposed to. So again, we're exposed to things, but how it manifests in all of us is very different. Some Vietnam veterans have diabetes, some have Parkinson's, some Gulf War veterans have respiratory conditions, some have IBS, right? So we're all going to react to things in very different ways. There are predispositions that we have genetically, how we're made up, etc. I have one veteran, for example, because of her exposure to the Middle East, guess what? She has breast cancer. That's just the facts. Um, and because of the PAC Act and things like that, those cancers were listed as things like there. So again, not something that I would lose sleep over the fact that hey, you were exposed to uranium. Again, you're active duty. You're not going to have the plethora of things today. arguably some things are going to take time to develop. That's just sadly where it goes. I was in Iraq. It took a long time for things from Iraq to manifest themselves. I was on ground zero on September 11 in New York City. It took a long time for that exposure to all that shit to fuck my lungs up years later. You know what I'm saying? Like the firefighters that we were there with, the people that we were there with, it took time for things to manifest. Sadly, that's also the same thing here. So the things you may have been exposed to today as you're leaving the service, that doesn't mean you have a thing to argue today. Sadly, this may be something for 10 years from now. This may be something for 20 years from now, that may manifest, and you have the ability to say, hey, wait a second. This is where it's coming from. Uh, 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 uh. That report is meant for medical professionals to be able to see. Yep, yep, yep. Um, weird symptoms that we cannot figure out, and we can refer to see the exactly, exactly. And again, so go back to that whole point. So now you have this examiner in Jackie's case. She's not going to be an encyclopedia of all the things that are there, but now the VA is saying, hey, look, here are some things again for that report, that memorandum where this veteran's exposed to these things. Here's how we're making connections, right? Because again, it's a very unique situation when you're dealing with veterans that have done things that the regular person has not done. So there's that part. Totally separate from disability claim side from health perspective. Yep. Maybe I'd walk faster with an extra foot. Probably. Understood. I just never talked to doctor. Again, not something that you realistically would. Again, I think sadly with a lot of our soon-to-be veterans and active duty people, we have a lot of information overload. No one in their right mind, realistically, I know folks that I was with, etc. We didn't really say, "Oh, I was by a burn pit." You know what I'm saying? We just did the burn pit stuff. Fast forward, oh shit, that was probably not the best course of action. So there are so many things that we just do not know. Um, so again, don't get in your head on some. I didn't talk to my doctor. Look, you have time to talk about things. You can always see your doctor tomorrow. You can always be seen after service. You have a year afterward. Where again, should you grow a third foot 6 months from now, where the hell did it come from? Um, so there's periods for that. Some things take time. And then sadly, there are conditions that take a long time to be detected because, they're very much a dormant thing. Um, they're not acting up, so you're not going to know about it. And then something happens, and oh, by the way, we found this issue. So sometimes things take time to uncover, but I wouldn't lose sleep in the fact that, oh my goodness, I didn't bring this up right now, right? Like, give as much information as you can as you're exiting service. That's kind of the whole reason to be very detailed about things. Because again, down the road, you can argue that. Again, there'll be arguments as to where were you? We know that there was, water contamination in certain bases. We know that veterans were exposed to certain things, asbestos in these ships, etc. So a lot of these things are not just exclusive to you. Everyone that you were with was exposed to that uranium, right? If that was, let's say, a thing there. So a lot of that matters. Got it. Check. Yep, on the sleep apnea. Yeah, good. Good sleep apnea there. Um, yeah, again, but don't then that's the other thing too, where sometimes that report is more so for them to do their part, but don't get too twisted on the around, bent around the edges, losing sleep on that because now the problem is there's going to be another veteran who hears about that thing and then they're going to be going crazy trying to find a report that is completely irrelevant to them. So that's it's interesting looking at how all this plays out. But alrighty, good people. We're going to shut her down there. Um, the sky is not falling. Things are not disappearing overnight. Be aware, be informed, make good decisions, check on people, regardless of where you may sit or what you may believe. The one thing that we have is each other, and I think it matters to just check on your people. There are things happening in the world that for many of us can be very triggering. So I would offer that to you all, especially in my world, because I deal with veterans all the time, especially older veterans. Regardless of where you may lean or what you may believe, there are just honestly older individuals who have served who sadly are going to be triggered by things that are happening in the world right now. And when things that are happening, domestically are very reminiscent of things we saw, you know, outside of country, that can be very triggering for some veterans, right? I think that's the part I always like to kind of come back to, right? It's one thing where, You have folks that saw what happened in Baghdad, that saw the fall of Saigon, that saw what happened in Korea, that saw what happened over here. Like these are very vivid things for people. And then you blink and you open your eyes and you see something happening literally in a city, regardless of where you may sit. That just brings some people to a place where it's like, I'd never thought I'd see the day where this is happening on Main Street. Like, what is happening here? This is very reminiscent of a life once lived that I like to forget about. So, being aware of those things, right? Like, especially a lot of our folks that just bottle things up inside, have experienced things, seen things, etc. Um, you know, reach out, have conversations because it definitely are triggering times, and that's the basic thing that I would offer to you all. Right, check on people in a real sense, because we are all we got. So we'll be back. Reach out, check the link in bio. Looking forward to seeing you in the next live class or things that we do. And for those out there with exams coming up, good luck to you. Let me know how it goes. See you next time.